is Member of Parliament for Lukashya Constituency, and he is the chairman of the legal committee in the Patriotic Front. I'll be officially introducing him pretty soon, but let me say that we are not only live in Lusaka and the surrounding areas on 89.9 on 5FM, but also live on our partner radio stations, namely Katete FM on 103.3 FM, and Katete literally covers the entire Eastern Province. We are grateful. And also thank you very much to Spice FM Radio in Kabwe on 91.1, covering the Central Province as well. And also live on ZFM in Kapiri Mposhi on 100.3 FM. Copper Belt is well covered. We are live on Platinum Radio in Ndola on 99.7, and also live on iWave FM Radio in Chigola, and that is on 90.1 FM. Both of these radio stations are covering the entire Copper Belt. We are grateful for that. We are also live on Tuta FM in Mansa on 90.7, and Tuta FM covers the entire Luapula province. Grateful for that. And of course, last but not the least is Muchinga Radio on 88.1, and Muchinga Radio is in Chinsali, but covering the rest of Muchinga province. We are also live on our Facebook page. Please feel free to like the page, leave us a comment, share if you like to share, and we'll be grateful to hear from you as well. And Facebook page is 5FM Radio Zambia. So is the YouTube channel as well. And I'm your host, Zachariah Banda. Now, let me officially welcome our guest. I did introduce him earlier, but just in case you've just tuned in, Honorable George Chisanga, Member of Parliament for Lukashya Constituency and Chairman of the Legal Committee in the Patriotic Front, is our guest this morning. Honorable, it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the Burning Issue Thursday edition.
Good morning, Zach. Thank you very much again for having me on the program. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Great. How have you been? How are the people of Lukashya doing?
Zach, I'm fine.
Yeah?
The people of Lukashya have been very fine.
Right.
I must say, we spent some time there before Parliament opened,
Yes.
but since Parliament has been opened, we're in a very gruesome program of
Right.
analyzing the budget. So
Yeah.
we haven't been able to travel the last 1 month to Lukashya.
Yeah.
But I've got plans to leave after Day of Prayers to go and do a few work on the inspection of our CDF projects and several other programs that are waiting for my attendance.
Yeah.
But
And speaking,
we are very fine, and we are doing quite well.
great. And speaking of the budget, what's your take on it?
I already criticized this budget.
Okay.
I said, unfortunately, now the budget has become a narration of issues. It's no longer, a direction of what the government intends to do. There are so many items going to do, but it's basically been the same story every year. Criticize this budget because it was then presented against the backdrop of having another program that was required to understand if the budget of 2024 had actually is the budget of 2024, because the Auditor General had not produced it, and then they went ahead and introduced a new budget. If you heard, also people were criticizing it on how they keep increasing the allocation to CDF without necessarily putting in place a mechanism of how the CDF is going to perform, and also not having done what is called the monitoring and evaluation of how the 2024 CDF rollout had been done. If you know, there have been challenges with CDF. Speaking for Lukashya constituency itself, we have not even been given all the funding for 2025, and so for the government to come and give a pretentious picture to Zambian people that they're increasing CDF when they're not dealing with the existing CDF performance is actually to much more to politic than to assist Zambians economically in the way that CDF was designed to do.
Yeah. So if you say you haven't received the entire CDF for 2025, how much are we looking at so far in terms of what you've received?
Well, I can't pinpoint to it, but I think we haven't received more than half of the allocation for 2025. And for that reason, most of our projects are now begging, because we rolled out, like I said earlier. For me, how we work in Lukashya is at the beginning of the year, we have a planning meeting for the year. So we know what we're going to do, a year to come, based on how, government is going to be dispersing CDF. But most of the constituents up to now have not received more than half of the CDF of 2025. Yes.
Interesting. Is that all you feel?
Well, there's so much I could say on the budget. I think
we
need to create another time when I can come and sit down with
Fair
you. But
enough.
right now, what we're doing, we are doing sector budget analysis. We are calling people. People are coming to appear before our committees. In fact, I think this is being finalized today. We are calling all the stakeholders in the budget performance, the line ministries, depending on the heads of the budget, to come and give us views on what the expectations for the budget is. And you can tell that most of those who are coming to appear before us are coming to argue that they are worried with the allocations on their heads. The funds that are being allocated to expected to be in the budget falls far short.
Right.
So already government does not give the Zambian people a clear picture of what they leave it to speculation. But also, for me, what you keep seeing under the UPND government is a consumption budget, because most of the items that we put in that budget are basically to meet government recurrent expenditures, salaries, etc., etc. There is nothing to say positively about arguably infrastructure development and every other thing that government is supposed to do. They have left that to these questionable PPPs and other, kind of capital projects that are not even visible to the Zambian people. So it's a, like I said, it's a wishy-washy everyday story kind of budget that we're looking at. And
That's right.
It's up to the Zambian to make the Zambians themselves to make their own decision on whether this government has performed to the expectation.
Thank you very much.
And again, they're going to borrow.
Honorable George Chisanga, Member of Parliament for Lukashya Constituency and Chairman of the Legal Committee in the Patriotic Front, is our guest this morning. You are a seasoned senior lawyer by profession, and it is not by coincidence that you are legal committee of the Patriotic Front, because it's all because of your capability to handle all legal issues around the Patriotic Front. Let's get into it. I mean, the PF seem to have had quite a lot of problems for quite some time now. What would you say the future of the Patriotic Front looks like?
Thank you, Zach. Before I go into the issue of PF and its problems, please just allow me under a minute,
right,
to congratulate our friends Zambia We Want. If you notice, they've been in the business of trying to create leadership in the political party that was recently launched. My friend Moavi Lungu has been elected as General Secretary of the Zambia We Want. My congratulations heartily to him, and also Honorable Kapemba Simbao has been elected as a president of the Zambia We Want. I want to congratulate our colleagues, firstly, for giving the light of hope on genuine democracy in the country. At least they have demonstrated that even at the time when democracy seems to be like a farce in a country, you have got people that can meet somewhere and be honest with each other, have a genuine dialogue amongst themselves, and create leadership, even as they prepare themselves to come and sell themselves to the population or to the citizens as an alternative government. I think what they did deserves high commendations, because I think they're setting an example for how mature leadership must be created in political formations or political parties. We are very grateful, because we are also working with them on the opposition front to see how we can bring together, galvanize the opposition, and create a super opposition superstructure that then can be able to present leadership and set itself to Zambian people to see how alternative government can be created. It's very exciting to have our friends do what they've done. The UPND has lamentably failed in managing the affairs of the country, because they've spent 90% of their time chasing after the Patriotic Front and trying to see if they can decimate it. And so that, speaking to the issues of the PF problems, I think everybody wants to really understand what is the future of the Patriotic Front. I wish I could just make one statement and close the program, because the future of the Patriotic Front is Tonse. That is a very blanket statement that somebody can make. But if you want to understand why issues concerning the future of the Patriotic Front have become topical, you must relate it to what has been happening since 2021, when the Patriotic Front lost power to the UPND. I said earlier that a considerable amount of time and has worked with ruthless determination to ensure that they decimate the Patriotic Front. And this has not been informed by any quest to try and do something, commendable to the nation. This has been informed by two things. Okay, firstly, this has been informed by the realization that the UPND, is nothing else than a deceptive construct. The UPND campaigned on the platform of promises that they are going to deliver to the expectation of Zambian people. It has come to light that what the UPND were promising to the Zambian people in the opposition was nothing else than lies. They wanted to, portray themselves as an effective alternative to the Patriotic Front, and they sold themselves on the promises of wanting to do what they believed Patriotic Front was failing to do. And now it has come to light that the UPND were lying to the Zambian people all the time they were in opposition for 20 years plus, that there would be a better government compared to the Patriotic Front. Zambians have now, in fact, as far back as December 2021, Zambians had started crying for the return of the Patriotic Front because they then realized that they had been duped to having voted out a political party that may not have been a very perfect political party, but then a political party that was, one, honest in terms of what they were doing to the Zambian people, two, very determined to ensure that they go about a program that they had leadership on. Is that PF had bid for leadership on the basis of constitutional amendments. PF had bid leadership on the basis of infrastructure development, and these two were the pilot projects which PF implemented in the 10 years they were in power. So it was a very short period between the time that UPND got into power and the time that people realized that they had actually been duped, that they started crying out for the Patriotic Front to come back. At that time, the UPND had hatched a plan to ensure that PF would not exist in the future. So they started devoting so much resources, time, thinking, planning, etc., to ensure that the Patriotic Front itself is decimated. That's the first realization. The fact that people now, realize the truth about the UPND in comparison to the Patriotic Front. Secondly, the UPND is very scared of the symbol of the boat, because the symbol of the boat had been sold countrywide. Everywhere you went, everybody who said Pawato or Mamukolo if you're in Limongu, people knew what you were talking about. People knew you were talking about either a Patriotic Front led by Michael Sata at the beginning or a Patriotic Front led by Edgar Lungu after Michael Sata died. Leadership capacity, their demonstrated capacity to run government, to allow the judiciary to act independently, that demonstrated capacity to have a professional electoral commission of Zambia, that demonstrated capacity to professionalize civil service. This is a PF that people have started assimilating to. So the UPND is very scared of all these aspects, because if you compare to them, they have lamentably failed on this. So the only enemy they think they have is a Patriotic Front. And that's why they're determined to make sure that this party falls. Okay, so on paper, what you have seen done rather, is a clear case of manipulation of everything to do with governance, everything to do with adjudication, everything to do with registration at the Register of Societies, to ensure that the Patriotic Front is in the hands of, for lack of a better term, stooges of the UPND. They've taken power from legitimate people that were elected into office in the Patriotic Front in 2021 when we went for a convention, and replaced them with people who they had sponsored to carry out, a mockery of a convention. And when the person who had driven the process of carrying out that mockery of a convention came to his senses and came back to the Patriotic Front, they grabbed the party from him and gave it to this young man called Chabinga, who is now running up and down pretending to be the leader of the Patriotic Front when the PF itself is in the hands of the owners. And this is what Zambians are seeing. What is very sad about this is that the UPND thinks that they have scored. Believe it or not, the UPND has not scored, because I'll use examples. First, one of the most renowned political leaders in the region, called Robert Mugabe, had a similar problem between himself and, in fact, it was a genuine internal strife. But what then happened is they had to split between what Mugabe called the crow and the cows. Okay, and Mugabe said there's a difference in leadership having a crow and leadership having cows following them. So he said, my young man Mnangagwa can remain with a crow. I've taken away the cows, which means the people have moved with me. He has remained with a shell of the party that he called Mnangagwa's, ZANU PF. What we are seeing in the case of a young man Chabinga is that he doesn't even have the crow. Okay, he is only a president of the PF because the Republican president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, has recognized him as such. That's the only reason why Chabinga is president of the Patriotic Front. In courts, he has struggled, to mutilate the leadership of Mao Sampa, who is, according to the Reserve Societies, the president of the Patriotic Front. But because, you see, there is this big man syndrome kind of politics that we have in this country, where what people think is law is what the president says. When you hear the president telling Chabinga, "Oh, Maiche Kosa will protect you," and you think that this is the leader of the Patriotic Front. When you hear young man Chabinga says, "Oh, the PF that is real is in a pact, with the president of the Republic of Zambia and the UPND," and you think that that is the Patriotic Front. If you hear Chabinga say, "Oh, in 2026, PF is going to support Mr. Hakainde Hichilema," so you have all these deceptive constructs that I spoke about. These fictitious arrangements around political leadership that the UPND has put in place, thinking they've scored. They have not scored. Zambians are watching the UPND. The UPND is behaving like George Kuma, the provincial George Kuma, where they're sitting on a branch and they're actually cutting it. They think that by unleashing Chabinga on the Patriotic Front, they've killed the Patriotic Front. They are very mistaken, because the Patriotic Front is not what the Reserve Societies say. The Patriotic Front is not the yappings that Chabinga is doing wherever he goes. The Patriotic Front are those people that are sitting in Lukashya constituency at ward level, at constituency level, at district level, at provincial level. The Patriotic Front is a central committee. The Patriotic Front, all structures you are seeing dotted around the country. That is what the PF is. Proverbially, people say sometimes people bury seeds thinking they have killed something. All the UPND is doing, they are burying this seed that Michael Sata had created, called the Patriotic Front. It's a living organism. The future of the Patriotic Front is yet to be unleashed, and you're going to see it. But right now, what the PF is doing is it is sitting at a place as an anchor party for the Tonse Alliance. It is also opening up opportunities for discussions with other members of opposition political parties who have realized that this political grouping called the UPND Titanic is about to hit an iceberg, and they want to create alternative leadership so that the country does not collapse with the fall of the UPND government. So the PF has got a future.
If you keep saying the future of the PF is Tonse Alliance, I mean, Tonse Alliance's future itself looks bleak already. I mean, isn't this a replica of what the PF itself is, independently, and what it's displaying inside the alliance?
Zach, you've been a journalist for a long time. I think you are able to distinguish perception from reality. Okay? What you think are problems of Tonse Alliance are perceptional issues. In Bemba we say, imiti paramene taibula kusenkana. When trees are growing in proximity with each other, there's always a possibility they'll rub at each other. That's exactly what is going on in the Tonse Alliance. The Tonse Alliance was carefully crafted by the 60th Republican president. The 60th Republican president, I think, was one of the most endowed disciples of Michael Chirufya-Sata. He knew exactly how to create a political organization and how to make it survive no matter what kind of turbulence it goes through. And therefore, when the UPND, in its ruthless determination, ensured that they tinkered with everything, including the courts, to ensure that the 60th Republican president does not recontest in 2026, because clearly, if he recontested, he was going to win. Botswana gives us an example. Malawi gave us an example. Senegal gave us an example. The UPND were scared stiff of this individual called Edgar Chagolungu. And I'm very convinced that even now, they are still scared stiff of him, even when he is not yet buried. But this intelligent being is the one who crafted the Tonse Alliance. So what you are now hearing are perceptional issues of two sections of the leadership of Tonse. There are some who want to interpret what Edgar Chagolungu tried to do in a certain fashion, and others who would like to interpret what Edgar Lungu did in another fashion. And unfortunately, the individual himself is not around. So you expect this kind of ukusenkana, like imiti paramene. But when we get to a stage where we begin to speak about the future of Tonse, believe it or not, the engagements that are taking place right now, where I was supposed to have been now, except that I came to speak to Zambian people on your radio station, is clear that once we resolve these formational issues, what is going to come out of the Tonse formation is going to be a decisive leadership, which if it partners with other stakeholders in the opposition front, including NGOs, churches, and other credible individuals who are thinking we need to turn this country back to factory thoughts. Once this grouping comes up to the surface, you will be excited with what you're going to see. So consider these as just teething problems of the Tonse Alliance, and especially because the one who designed the scheme that is being considered now is not available. But I'm very, very convinced that all of us have been used to engage with Edgar Chagolungu. All of us know what was in the mind of the man. And all we need to do is put that on the table, discuss it, and create opinions, agree a compromise. And once they come from that discussion, believe it or not, this is going to be very exciting. Vouch, more information because it's strategy. But I just want to let you know that we are being led, renowned in the political circle. There are people who have raised genuine concern about how long we are taking to resolve the internal, misunderstandings, not even wrangles, but internal misunderstandings in Tonse. You see the excitement in Daily Mail, you see excitement on Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, because it is, like I said, the UPND is very scared of the opposition. So everything they hear in the opposition, they want to glorify it, they want to blow it, out of proportion so that people can begin to think there are problems. There are no problems. I want to appeal to the members of the Patriotic Front. I want to appeal to the leadership in the Tonse Alliance to just be calm, resolve these problems like mature people. Follow the example, for instance, of Zambia we want, and see how we can resolve our problems and move forward. And move forward we will, because Zambians are resolved that the UPND is not going to see the day in 2026. What they're not sure of is who they're going to put in place. And this is why these formations become very important.
In your quest to resolve the impasse in Tonse Alliance, there's talk that the widow and the Lungu family will be consulted. Consulted on what?
Again, this is just what people choose to, you take a little statement out of proportion and give it your own description because you want to make it look like the Tonse and PF leadership is a failed leadership. It's not true. If you heard what Honorable Nakachinda had said, he said they are going to inform the Lungu family of the steps we have taken in preparation for the convention. That is not to say we're going to consult them. We have spoken to Mama Lungu. We have already taken a position from what she told us. She actually also agreed that this impasse that they've got on the barrier of the 60th Republican president is beginning to affect the moving forward of leadership both in Patriotic Front and Tonse Alliance. And she gave us her blessings that you are entitled to plan yourselves, go to the convention, and ensure. And we went to speak to her, not because we wanted to consult her. No, we went to speak to her because we felt we owed her that respect. This was a first lady.
Not because you feel he could have hinted to her about who he or who the plan B is?
I don't even think that he could have hinted to her. Of course, they were having discussions, but whatever plan B Edgar Chagolungu has put in place is a matter of strategy. We know where it is, and I don't think
know where it is?
Of course, we know where it is. Why do you think we still survive up to now? If we didn't know where plan B was, we would have plummeted by this time.
So you're still going by plan B?
Of course, there's plan B that is supposed to be taking place. It's only plan B that can take out the UPND from government. Okay, but just to make the point very, very clear, it is one thing to, out of courtesy and respect for the first lady who was the wife of the 60th Republican president, out of courtesy, just to go and notify her of the steps that are being taken by the leadership, by the party which was led by the husband in moving. It is very different. But others, the naysayers, those who hate the Patriotic Front, are the ones who have created this narrative, okay, that we want to go and consult her because of what you suppose is the reason why. That is not the reason why. These men who lead the Patriotic Front, these men who lead Tonse Alliance are men of valor. They are men of integrity. They are men who've got their own, experience. In fact, I should say men and women, because there are so many women that are leading the Patriotic Front. Professor Kanduloa is one of them. Silva Charikosa is one of them. Kampamba Mlenga Chelamoche is one of them. These are people and several others within the top leadership of Patriotic Front who can make a decision, and they've already made decisions of the steps we're going to take. Of course, being guided by the plan that was put in place by of Plan B to ensure that we implement this plan. Believe it or not, Zach, just remain with the hope that what Patriotic Front used to do for them is going to happen again after the 26th once we change leadership. In fact, it's going to happen in a very improved way, because then you won't be dealing with only Patriotic Front. No, you are going to be dealing with Patriotic Front with the alliance of other opposition political parties who want to enlist on Tonse, and any other alliance that we're going to create by putting together Tonse and other political formations that are taking place in the country. But there's hope for the Zambian future because of what the Zambia want has done. There's hope for the Zambian future because of what Tonse is doing itself. So once you bring all these synergies, put them together, and energize the opposition, we'll be ready for 2026.
My guest this morning on the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue is Honorable George Chisanga, Member of Parliament for Lukashya Constituency and the Chairman of the Legal Committee in the Patriotic Front. Now, the Patriotic Front has been sternly warned by the Zambia Police Inspector General against planned peaceful demonstrations, and these are countrywide peaceful demonstrations. Tell us more about the planned demonstrations.
And you call them planned peaceful demonstrations. You want to also for me to start disclosing strategies?
No, because then if the IG comes out and says, "I know what you are doing, and I warn you not to go ahead," it simply means this is out of the bag.
You know, Zach, the conduct of Musamba as IG has worried me for the longest time. It has worried me for the longest time because we have in that office, I think a man doesn't understand what his mandate is. Let me be plain. You did not hear Acting President Given Lubinda date the press and say that the PF is going to go on a countrywide peaceful demonstration. And in fact, I'm glad that even Grafa Musamba recognizes that if there's any plan, what is being planned is a peaceful demonstration. How to criminalize a peaceful demonstration? You see, but anyway, giving you the actual point, you haven't heard Given Lubinda as acting president of the Patriotic Front come to the press, which is what he usually does if he has to communicate with the public. He dates the public, calls a press conference, explains what we're going to do. Okay, if it's not given, you haven't heard Rafa Nagash. He's been on radio and TV in the last daily basis. You have never heard any of these leaders of a Patriotic Front telling the nation that we are now going. For me, if these are the people that had made these statements, Grafa Musamba would have exhibited leadership as a person who's charged with the #1 office for maintenance of law and order by engaging these two and telling them, gentlemen, what are you about to do? That's what an IG is supposed to do. What has transpired, Zach, is that a Facebook page from somewhere, so from some most oblivious of places, suggested that the PF now is angry. First, the PF was expressing anger at the consistent miscarriage of justice to which they've been subjected by the courts of law from the time that we lost power. There are so many things that have happened at the judicature that has caused sustainable grief for the Patriotic Front, to the extent that the PF has now concluded that justice is not available for us. So one member of the Patriotic Front decided to suggest that, look, maybe the only way we can get our party back, because mind you, this is a multi-party political system that we have. People must choose which party they want to belong to, and people must choose how they want to go about conducting their political affairs. And the PF accepted and went and retreated into opposition. But from day one, they have not been allowed to do anything. Even when they have fully complied with the law and gone to court to go and cry out, to go and plead. In court, we call it pleading. They have gone to court as a party that respects the law. They have gone to court and pleaded to the court, please help us. We want to get our party in order so that we can provide alternative leadership at the political platform. Those chances have been denied day in, day out. And so this individual who was out there was only voicing a concern that maybe this is alternative. Now, when I tell you that this government is very frightened of its citizens, that's exactly what you see Grafa Musamba coming to speak about. Grafa Musamba never said anything when that young man was tied at some farm in Chisanga, ended up dead, and the case of murder could not even be constructed because the police first went on to an avenue of trying to protect the alleged committers of that crime. They protected them. First, there was a story, even the police spokesperson, which is not Grafa Musamba, issued a statement that they were defending themselves. When NGOs cried out, oh, no, there was now this arrest, a very artificial arrest. Oh, people were comfortable now. The due process is going to kick in. Before you blink, somebody has come out of custody. I don't want to into these things because some of these people are actually our relatives. But you see, when the law begins to be abused in this fashion with impunity, and you've got an IG who is sitting in the office of the IG, it is a clear case of lack of no confidence in that IG. But all this, Zach, apart from that, you have had cases of unexplained murders. You have had cases of junkies. You have had cases of serious cases of criminality in this country, which Raphael Musamba has never said anything about. One of the greatest crimes that have taken place under the UPND government is that hit that took place at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. That was from a novel. At that incident, I even said it, a number of laws were floated. People were trading gold without complying with the law. The legislation that regulates the sale of minerals was abrogated. People were at the most secure installation in the whole nation, international airport. Aviation regulations were abrogated at that time. People were at the presidential pavilion. That's where these crimes were taken. The presidential pavilion is the most secure place at an international airport. That law was abrogated. People were not going to pay taxes out of those transactions. Tax legislations were abrogated, and clearly it was a theft that was taking place. Okay, dollars were being exchanged on an unrecognized foreign exchange market. Forex regulations, bank regulations were floated in that single transaction. Raphael Musamba, not even a spokesperson for the police, never dated the country and explained what the role of the police was. What we saw were conspiracies, connivances, and that case did not see a light of a day. That criminality will remain to haunt the UPND for the rest of their existence. But the fact is, those are the kinds of cases that Raphael Musamba is supposed to speak to and say, in my role, as long as I'm IG, we will chase up this criminality. We will make sure that the culprits are arrested, they are brought to book. And even that plane, if you remember it, which had been forfeited to the state, was let to go. And Musamba has not said anything about that. When people decide they're going to exercise their right to demonstrate, peaceful as they were saying they're going to do it, the responsibility of the police is to make sure that peaceful demonstration goes ahead. That is the law. That is what is in the Bill of Rights. That is what the Supreme Court says in the Murundika versus the Attorney General, that the responsibility of the police is not to stop people from demonstrating peacefully. Rather, it is for the police to ensure that they go and protect those people when they're there. So for me, what I was expecting was a statement from Mr. Musamba. In fact, not even from him. It's a small thing. He shouldn't even have been involved. I expected Ray Hamonga to come and date the state and explain to the state that we have received information that the PF is going to carry out peaceful, emphasize capital letters, peaceful demonstration to try and restore the party back to the real owners, because the party has been stolen and given to Chabinga. Okay? And what I expected Ray Hamonga to say is that the police is going to ensure it leaves no stone unturned to enable the members of Patriotic Front who are aggrieved to carry out this peaceful demonstration in accordance with what is guaranteed for them in the Constitution. That's what I was expecting from the police. Because in the case of Murundika versus the Attorney General, the Supreme Court even had an occasion to guide the police and say, if you keep telling us that we were telling those people not to have a rally because the MMD, or we had intelligence information that the MMD was going to come and stone those people when they're having a rally, we were in the opposition at that time. Then the court says, you are actually now telling us that now, when you receive intelligence information that Mr. Chisanga's house is about to be robbed by 4 robbers, instead of you going to look out for robbers to make sure they don't go and steal from Mr. Chisanga, you will now be calling Mr. Chisanga and say, Mr. Chisanga, please, can you and your wife and your children run away from that house? Because we have information that the robbers are coming to your place. So, in other words, you're going to tell Mr. Sanga to run out of the house and allow robbers to come and steal and go. And the Supreme Court said, this is not the job of the police. What Mr. Musamba, I don't know why I call him Musamba, what Mr. Musamba is doing now is not policing. It is running away from the responsibility of policing. And by extension, he is even implicating his commissioners in the provinces. When he claims that he's going to tell all his commissioners in the provinces to make sure that they protect, that's not protecting law and order. That is actually fomenting chaos. It will just take one day the public to become brave and bold and defy this police. Then chaos is going to break loose. This man is not discharging his responsibility. This man he thinks his responsibility is to protect the political elite who have failed to manage the affairs of the nation against a public which is growing dissatisfied with how the UPND is running the affairs of the nation. What the police are supposed to do is to maintain law and order. And maintaining law and order includes protecting those who are going to exercise their right to peacefully demonstrate, to send a message to the powers that be. That is what this democracy that we fought for was designed to do. But what he is doing, he's behaving like a policeman in the colonial era. You see, why Cha-Cha-Cha broke at that time, we are thinking their role was to protect the waters of Northern Rhodesia. And people decided enough is enough. Now, we don't want to get to a level where we decide enough is enough. I have always argued this, that if UNIP is in power, they're in power presiding over the affairs of their own kith and kin. If MMD is in power, they're in power exercising political authority over their own kith and kin. If the Patriotic Front power exercising political authority over their own kith and kin, by extent, if the UPND like currently is in power, these are our brothers and sisters. We should never escape that. Now, there's a way in which family affairs are resolved. They're resolved in an environment where you accommodate each other. You know that Zach is my younger brother. Okay, we need to find a way because we are not. There are no colonialists in here. Now, if you have a police that still want to continue discharging its functions like a colonial police station or the police service, then you create a problem. Why did you transform this into a police service instead of a police force? And where you have the only time the IG ever dates the press is to warn the opposition, then you don't have an independent police service in the nation. Because Mr. Simsamba has a duty to protect me as much as he has a duty to protect the Minister of Home Affairs, who's a colleague of mine. I am not a less, political leader in the nation as the person who is sitting in the office of Minister of Justice now. We are the same. And if the police has to be independent, they must accord us the same kind of protection. And they must be able to discern how they can help the country to maintain law and order. That's our responsibility. So I want to urge Mr. Simsamba. In fact, yesterday I was chatting with somebody. I was saying, look, I'm getting close to making a call, and maybe I can make it here now. This country has had previous inspectors general of police, many of them. And I think a sizable number of them are alive. I am sure they are seeing what the degeneration that is going on in the police. Look, for the same reason that political leaders who were there in the days of UNIP and MMD can rise to the occasion now and say, no, we want to help both government and the opposition politicians to get together and resolve the problems for the nation. I think now time has come for the former inspectors general of police to rise to this occasion and be counted. The police is degenerating, and it's degenerating very, very fast. If this trajectory of loss of confidence on the part of the police in the public continues unabated, there will be problems. There is now a responsibility on those inspectors general of police who are still alive. Simsamba is not beyond reproach. He is not beyond counsel, Mr. Msamba. Inspector General Graffa Msamba. He is not beyond reproach. He is not beyond counsel. I think time has now come for those who had the privilege of being IGs and even other senior positions in the police to take a leaf and sit somewhere with Mr. Simsamba and say, we think you are making mistakes. Somebody has told a story about the Titanic, that there was the captain who was manning the Titanic was the most experienced thing could sink the Titanic. But on that boat, there was a captain, the one who saw where the Titanic was going. He then went to his boss and said, sir, I think there's a problem. I can see an iceberg. I am thinking we need to change course for us to save the lives of people on the Titanic. You know the answer that guy gave him? It's recorded. He says, young man, this is a Titanic. Not even God can sink the Titanic. That young boy who was taking a first voyage of the Titanic wanted to save the lives of people. But because of the recklessness of the experienced captain, we ended up with the greatest catastrophe at sea ever recorded in humankind. We are teetering as a nation on the brink of civil disobedience. And I say this with all humility and with all respect to those who are in government. We have now reached a stage where people are disgruntled. We have a responsibility as leaders to sit somewhere and speak to each other and find a way in which we can prevent this from happening. At the level of Mr. Simsamba, I think the IGs, and I repeat, have a responsibility to find it within themselves to try and help this individual, to see, to relook and introspect at what his mandate is. You can't have an IG who the only time you ever see him is when he's threatening people. It is wrong. But also, most importantly, this was like a fly sitting somewhere. You could have just swatted it. You could have even asked, they've got intelligence. They would have found out which province this individual was speaking from and just send the commission and say, look, go and tell them that we will help you. If you want to demonstrate, we're going to help you. Here are the conditions. But for him as IG to come and respond to somebody who is sitting at some oblivious, some remote location, trying to cry out for freedom, it tells you stories about what the role of the police is in the nation.
This is the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue. Honorable George Chisanga, Member of Parliament for Lukashya Constituency and Chairman of the Legal Committee in the Patriotic Front, is our guest this morning. And soon we'll be opening the phone lines for you to call in and interact with our guest. Now, the Republican President, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, constituted a 25-member technical committee on the constitution amendment process. This must be a progressive move. I mean, this is what even the Constitutional Court, I think, suggested one of the processes should be, no?
I like the way you're carpeting me with this question. You have a preferred answer. I won't give you a preferred answer. I'll tell you the truth. I came here when the UPND first mooted the idea of the Constitution. And without getting into detail, I came and explained that our colleagues are going about this program the wrong way. They are not following due process. They are not following the Constitution itself, because this Constitution provides for itself how it is going to be amended.
Right.
Okay. At that time, I criticized both the procedure that they were trying to invoke, as well as the content of that roadmap. They hadn't done the bill yet. They had actually started with the roadmap. And at that time, I had told the nation that every constitution-making process, first, is not a political program. Secondly, that the only thing politicians provide to that political will, we can't amend the Constitution. Third, the making process is supposed to be people-owned. The people themselves must own it. And I gave you examples from Chona Commission, Mvunga Commission, Mungomba Commission, Monakato Commission, as well as the technical committee that was chaired by Chief Justice Anum Senge Sidongwe, technical committee under the Patriotic Front.
Right.
All these commissions, all these processes had one constitutionally recognized process, okay? That you appoint a commission of a constitutional review commission or a task force at the inception of the process. You start with that creature and you send them out to go and carry out their functions. So I had said at that time that this process does not comply with the Constitution and it does not avail itself to constitutionalism, and I condemned it. On the floor of the House, we tried to argue it. They fostered it to us and said, look, we are just being petty, you are being jealous, we want to do this, blah, blah. And they said everything. And I also made a determination. I said, there must be a process that gives you a threshold that shows that stakeholder consultation was prioritized. Unfortunately, that case went to court, and the court agreed with what we have been telling the public. At the time that the court agreed with what we've been telling the public, we got a rude shock again, because when they came back to Parliament, what we had expected out of decency and decorum and parliamentary procedures, we expected them to withdraw the bill. Because, it now became too clear. In fact, I don't know how, there was a very suspicious process that took place between the time that we had that bill deferred and the time the Constitutional Court delivered its judgment condemning that bill. Okay, but that's a discussion we can have and give justifications. The point is this, that when we were in Parliament, what we expected was that they were going to withdraw that bill. Lo and behold, we were told, oh, the president has guided the minister to defer the bill. Now, when you defer the bill, it means I'm going to bring back this bill at a future date. Okay, that's a deference.
All right.
So that bill remains gazetted. It remains on the floor of the House, only it's been deferred. For me, I was shocked when I heard that the president has appointed the technical committee. Very, very shocked, because another level of abrogation of procedure by the European government. And that's why I keep saying that our colleagues seem to be clueless.
How is it so?
It is, because a technical committee has been appointed to do what? Firstly, the president exercises his powers under Article 92.1, 92.2 of the Constitution. I'll read it for you. Okay? 92.1 says, my eyes are giving me up. 92.1 says, the president shall perform with dignity, leadership, and integrity the acts as unnecessary and expedient for or reasonable or incidental to the exercise of executive authority. That's all it says. He has exercised his powers under that provision. Okay? It goes ahead and says he exercises his powers under Article 92.2 F and J of the Constitution. 92.2 says, without limiting other provisions of this Constitution, the president shall, if you go to F, okay, it says the president shall, under F, appoint persons as are required to perform special duties for the executive. Special duties for the executive. If you go to J, it says perform other functions specified in the Constitution as prescribed. So if I was going to be a bit fair to the president, I was going to say the only slightly correct exercise of this power is under F, which says he has power to appoint persons as are required to perform special duties of the executive. But it then begs an immediate question. Is the Constitution making a special duty of the president?
Not even the executive. No.
Is it? Because constitution making, I said at the beginning, must be owned by the people of Zambia. They are the ones who want the constitution to be made. The president can only end with the declaration of intent that we would like to amend the constitution. Now, if you see what I told you at the beginning, it was deliberate. I said you cannot purport to appoint, a task force maybe three quarters or 85% of the way into your constitution making process, which in fact has been condemned orders, which in fact has been deemed unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court. So you cannot continue to abrogate the very constitution that the court told you have abrogated, and you still exercise your powers and purport to exercise them under the Constitution. So this appointment of the task force first is wrong because the timing itself is wrong. We already have a bill that is gazetted, that is on the floor of the House. What Zambians would have expected is that first we would have had to have a formal withdrawal of Bill 7 from the floor of the House. Okay? Secondly, the executive would have had to gazette the bill.
So in short, what you are saying is that this committee is being given a task that there is a Bill 7 here, and can you please proceed
and I answer
with
that,
it?
and I ask a question: is that the reason for which you can appoint a task force under a constitution making process? You see, for lack of a better term, can you appoint a task force to just come and rubber stamp a wrong process that you already started in the process, which has already been condemned by stakeholders and which has already been deemed or found to be unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court that you yourself set up? The misfortune with the UPND government is that from the beginning, when they got into power, they managed the affairs of this nation by trial and error. There is no distinction between a president appointing this committee, exercising the powers of the Constitution that don't have anything to do with the constitution making process, and appointing this committee. And and saying to our friends in Malawi, oh, we are so grateful that the president Chakwera and his vice president Chidima, who apparently is dead, have conceded defeat in this election. You don't even know that the vice president whom you are congratulating for conceding defeat died a long time ago. It is because you are not paying attention to detail in running the affairs of the nation. It is because you think that you can just scroll around the constitution, and find clauses that seemingly suggest that it's like, oh, but need some but I think they're not Article 5 and I think Article 131 bit. Okay, I think Article 92 I ask myself questions. Where is the Attorney General? Where are those who are supposed to have the mandate to advise the president on how he can exercise constitutional powers to do what he's doing? But also, has the Attorney General paid attention to the precedent that we've established as a country and elsewhere within the Commonwealth about how you go about amending a constitution using either a Constitutional Review Commission process or a task force? We even had a task force in this country, under Michael Sata. Why not learn the process in terms of timing? Okay, like I said, you may want to give the president some credit that maybe he can exercise that power under Article 92(2)(f). But what about the timing? What are they going to do? You're even suggesting they're going to draw their own terms of reference. How can the task force draw its own terms of reference when there's a bill sitting on the floor of the House, when the Gazette is still existing that this bill has been gazetted? There are problems. And which is why now we are rallying around trying to create an opposition of people that have got proper experience in running the affairs of government to come back and begin to undo these mistakes that we're seeing here. These mistakes are very costly, Mr. Zach. They are very, very costly. So I have problems myself with the appointment of this task force. Other people have condemned it for various reasons. Others have even said, well, now we're a group of just cadres. I wouldn't want to run into that fray because and more legal when dealing with matters that fray of the basic wholesale condemnation of society about the appointees who are in there. But I have a slight problem. Okay, I will give an example of the lawyer who has been appointed, Douglas Tambukani. He's a member of the profession of the Law Association of Zambia. I respect him. He's a fine lawyer. He's a very intelligent young man. But, you must lend legitimacy to a public program. And how you lend legitimacy to a public program, which is what has happened in the past, is that the executive suggests to the president for the time being of the profession that we have this important assignment coming our way and would like you to nominate a member or some members from a profession for consideration and possible appointing by the president. That way, one, you get a buy-in from LAS almost immediately. Okay, but
so that wasn't that.
I have asked the president of LAS, the leaders of LAS, if they were considered, in this appointment. Mr. Tambukani was just appointed underhand of a president, which is right, which the president has got power to do, by the way, but I'm talking about lending legitimacy to the process. Why didn't you involve the profession? You're not only going to get a buy-in, but in the event that you want the profession to also assist you in the process, they will come to their delegate, who's Mr. Douglas Katambuka, and say, well, we think that, look, as you are going to go about this process, do this, and do the other thing. But they've been put apart. I know, for instance, how the Catholics operate. You just can't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to appoint this priest, Father Zach, and put him on the constitutional review. You don't do it that way. You write to the chairman for the time being of the ZCCB. Then amongst themselves, they pick which priest they can nominate to bring to you. Or at least if you want to make your own decision, they can give you 3 or 2 priests and you can pick for yourself. And to keep giving this process of legitimacy, that's what you do even with the academia. That's what you do even with the industry. Because see, the task force must be expanded. It must have stakeholders from different places. But by any means, if you're going to get in an engineer, write to ECZ and ask them to nominate somebody. If you're going to get the only persons you've got the authority over are your civil servants because they're under the Secretary of the Cabinet. But every other member of that task force should have been demonstrated that at least the profession from which they come had been consulted, because you want to make this thing broad-based. I'll give you an example. In 2013, rather, I was the vice president of the Law Association of Zambia. Michael Chifesata set up a commission of inquiry on legal and justice sector reform. Okay, I had been very vocal, and even now I'm very vocal about the need for us to reform our judiciary. Okay, and Michael Sata knew me personally, and he knew that was my advocacy, because I used to tell him every time we were talking about what we're going to do when we get into power as Patriotic Front. But Michael Sata didn't write me a letter directly and said, I'm appointing you. Michael Sata asked the profession, the president, can you please nominate a member? He didn't even mention me. But the profession had seen that I was doing advocacy for justice sector reform. I'd been on TV, I'd been on radio, I'd been carried in the papers every day. I was making that much noise because I was consulting the International Commission of Jurists, which was talking about the need for a reform of judiciaries in the SADC region. So they felt, oh, he has the competencies. They recommended me, and I went and sat on that commission of inquiry. That gave it credence, because whenever I had an issue to deal with the law, I used to go to my president and the council. They say, gentlemen, this is what we're going to do. Can I have your... If we were sitting somewhere, I would even ask Laz, can you please send us people to come and submit to the commission? That way, you give the process legitimacy. But UPND does not operate like that. For UPND, the means must justify the end. In other words, by the time UPND decide they're going to do something, they already have an answer to what they want to do. So when they put in place a process, especially this process that has been forced on them, this thing has been forced on them. They appointed a task force. These guys wanted to amend the constitution without going through a task with any form of stakeholder. In fact, they were pretending to be consulting stakeholders. I told you that time when I came here that I received the letter the day I was coming to this station. I received the letter from a Minister of Justice saying, "Can we meet you in Kasama? Because we're going to have a one-day consultation with stakeholders in Kasama about the constitution." How do you consult like that? Recently, the president had chiefs come through, and I'm even yet to go and find out from my chiefs, firstly, what discussions they had, because it looked to me that they had a 3-hour meeting, and they then said, oh, the chiefs have said they want the delimitation. Now, delimitation is not the only thing that is going to go into this constitution. But like I said, the UPND chooses to be devious at every level. And even this process of doing a task force has actually been forced on them because of stakeholder disagreement. Been caught napping. They choose not to do what is right. Okay, they pick up a task force against the backdrop of an existing bill, against an existing gazetting position. It's a farce. We need to start doing something that is more serious to let the people know that we are serious about cleaning the nation, and especially about constitutional making process. The other thing that we have to pay attention to, Zach, about this making process: how long does Parliament have between now and the time we are dissolved? Are you sure that we're going to do something meaningful for the Zambian people, even through this task force, between now and the time this parliament closes, that we can even amend the constitution and have it used for the next election? How fair can you be to the nation? We have argued even the time that they were starting with the minimum a government must be able to spend in terms of time on constitution making process is 2.5 years. The window closes when you get into year number 3 of your governance. You need to now deal with the urgent matters that require your urgent attention, most especially things to do with food security, things to do with energy improvement, and several other things that can be done in that period. Not to go back to this process, which, honestly speaking, cannot be done.
This is the Thursday edition of the Burning Issue here on the Honorable George Chisanga, Member of Parliament for Lukashya Constituency and Chairman of the Legal Committee in the Patriotic Front. And of course, it's that time when we take phone calls for you, our listener, to participate on our program. You will have to call us on 0955 221515. That's the number to call. You can SMS your text to the same number if you like, and leave us a comment also on our Facebook page. That's 5FM Radio Zambia. Don't forget that we are also live on Katete FM in Katete, covering literally the entire Eastern Province. And that is on 103.3 FM. We are live on Spice FM 91.1 in Kabwe and Central Province. Also live in Kapiri and Poshi on 100.3 FM is ZFM. And live on Platinum Radio in Ndola on 99.7, covering Copper Belt, as well as iWave FM Radio in Chingola. We are live on iWave 90.1 FM, equally covering the rest of the Copper Belt, and Tuta FM in Mansa on 90.7 FM, covering Rapula Province, and last but not least, Mochinga Radio in Chinsali and covering Muchinga province on 88.1. The number to call us on once again is 0955 221515. Good morning and welcome to the burning issue. Please share your name and where you're calling us from.
Thank you so much, Zach. How are you today?
Not too bad today. Is this Brother Chisha?
Exactly. You're speaking to Brother Chisha in Lusaka.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Honorable Sangawaya.
Morning, Machisha. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay, thank you. For me, Honorable Sangawaya,
Yes,
I've
sir.
been supporting PF from inception.
Yes,
I'm a very, very disappointed person.
that's right.
What made me to be so disappointed is to see how you leaders, the way you're handling issues. You know, some of these things, I'm not even supposed to bring them on radio, but
Yes.
I have no any platform to you.
Uleta pansa katona.
The point I'm trying to make here, Mr. Chisanga, is that you and yourselves in PF, you know very well that the party has been attacked. You know, and this has been planned by accident. Planned. The president is someone to say, be strong, don't fear. Are you not aware of that, Mr. Chisanga? Yes.
Yes, sir.
How come we are counting 9 months before the general election? As our leaders, you can't just cut the way forward. This confusion which is happening in Trans Alliance, why are you failing to sit down as leaders as soon as possible and sort out issues? Mr. Changa, I'm here to tell you that the grassroots is intact. You have people on the ground. And in your opening remarks, you said, Trans Alliance PF members be calm. Things are in the pipeline.
Yes.
Yes, those are needed very much. But we're supposed to be accompanied with what?
Action.
With
That's right.
You can't have a situation whereby every day you are just comforting people. Immediately after you leave that session, we are no, these people are fighting. No, these people they are failed to agree on certain points. Mr. Sanga.
Yes, sir.
Abantu balanaka. In case you're not aware,
Yeah.
Abantu balanaka. You know, they're under through Momoma leaders.
That's right.
It's not good to take people for granted. When they support you, don't think they will just keep on praising, keep on supporting. People, they reach a point where they say, enough is
It's enough, yes.
What I'm saying is that don't take people for granted. You have a grassroots which is very, very much intact, which is in support of you leaders. But why are you failing to agree as leaders and come to one point? Because we can't continue on the same trajectory whereby you are assuring people to say we are intact, when in actual sense what you are doing as leaders is totally different. I'm a very, very disappointed person because, like I mentioned before, I've never supported any political party in my life apart from PF. But what we are doing, Mr. Changa and your leaders, it is very, very discouraging me. And I'm not the only one. There are people out there who are also discouraged. My appeal as I conclude.
Yes, sir.
Put your house in order, Mr. Changa, because it's too late. Otherwise, you and your fellow leaders don't take the support people are giving you for granted.
Thank you, Brother Chisha, for that. We've got a message here. Says, morning, Zach and Honor. Let's be real and factual. Yes. Crying every day. As it is now, Chabinga is the president for the PF. Please, you are many. Sit down and sort out this issue. Zambians want you, but you are disorganized. This is Vashinzewa from Lilanda.
Yes.
Let me see if I can pick this call. Good morning.
See if I can.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Brother Zach.
Good morning, thank you. Thank you for, and please share your name and where you're calling us from.
Yes, my name is Andrew. I'm calling you from Chisanga State Council.
Morning, Andrew. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just want to agree with the previous caller,
yes.
Brother Chisha.
Yes.
I think that also I'm very disappointed with the happening in the Patriotic Front and the Alliance. I really can't believe
the indiscipline that is being shown in the Patriotic Front. We've got the Secretary General, who is the CEO of the party, living like that, they don't alliance. Personally, I have a preferred candidate, but I'm not going to support in this thing. I like order. Order and discipline must be very important in any organization. So we cannot have this kind of nonsense where, because we supporting this candidate, I want to talk about we need to have order. The Secretary General has guided the meeting don't announce. There must be order. I think the way you convene the meeting, it has to be convened in a certain way. The Secretary General guides say members of Patriotic Front should not attend meetings that are not recorded by the office or the party chairman, who is also the chairman of Tons. But members of parliament, we've got the Honorable Kapianga attending that meeting. We saw the Honorable from Nakonde attending that meeting. We saw Mawonga attending that meeting. Thirdly, we also saw one of the candidates, Honorable Garmundi, attending that meeting. The other guys that can forgive them, Kapianga, those that can forgive them, not the Honorable Garmundi. Okay. Personally, I've got a preferred candidate, but I cannot. For me, what I've told myself is, whoever wins from the top 12 and everything, we need to support that person. But we just need to have order. Okay, so my appeal, just like the previous caller said, I think we need to sit down. I think personally, I've seen, there are people that we need to talk to.
Yes.
Chris Zuman, is former political advisor to the president.
Yes.
Sean Tembo. I think you need to sit down with them, talk to them. I think I'm seeing some levels of excitement from these two, and I don't know who is advising them. But I think at the end of the day, the differences can be ironed out. I think as leaders, it's how you iron out differences. Because Zambian people won't forgive you. You normally does. Zambians won't forgive you. You are our only hope. If you mess up this opportunity to have, otherwise the ground is ripe.
That's right.
The ground is ripe, but it's still the leaders who need to help us. Meet as leaders. Not just an honor last time, create women publishing the so-called WhatsApp chats with the former president, the late president ECA. Who does that? You go and publish a private chat on social media? No, you don't do that. Me personally, I'm very disappointed, but hasn't he completely lost hope? I still have hope.
Yes.
Probably people will come to the speak.
Yes.
But otherwise, we are just sitting back.
That's right.
I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
From our partner radio station.
Yeah.
This is Tuta FM, and the text is that, good morning. Talking of Plan B, did the late Tonse chairperson, Edgar Lungu, leave a list of preferred leaders to lead the alliance? And if so, is there a similar list regarding the membership of the PF? And I think this, let me just give you one more call and then you can respond. Good morning. Morning. Now, Kachemoshe, Oswald. Yes, Oswald.
Mashukani kwa nimbuka boss nimbuka. Yes. Yes. Thank you very much.
And I think in line with what Oswald is saying, as you respond to these callers and our text, the two texts, I think it will also be important to state what that entails when NCP, in this case, that has withdrawn, which obviously NCP in the past by-elections has been a vehicle that has been used.
Yes.
What does that entail now that there is that withdrawal?
That's right.
Right.
Okay. The one thing I need to say first is that if you heard the callers, they've spoken the heart of the Patriotic Front. They have spoken the expectation of the membership of Patriotic Front.
Right.
That then resonates with what I've told you earlier, that see, PF is not just a political party. It is a living organism. What you are hearing from our members, especially about Chisha, is what happened when, a living organism begins to suffer malaise. It begins to get sick. And then those who are charged with the responsibility of resolving the problem don't seem to be doing it to the expectation of the people. This is basically what you're going to find out. I entirely agree that it does appear that we are moving very slow as leadership, in trying to resolve the problems that the PF is beleaguered with. And this has happened partly because, you see, apart from resolving those problems that are beleaguering Patriotic Front, we are doing two things as well. Firstly, we are ensuring that we survive the onslaught of the power of the party in government, both as a political party, but also as individuals, the individuals of the Patriotic Front. If you are aware, our two leaders themselves, Given Luvinda and Nakachinda, have been at criminal courts for probably the last 3 years. Nakachinda himself had the conviction which we are appealing. Apart from these, we have our colleagues who are even in jail now at the onslaught of the power the party in power. So, apart from trying to raise the Patriotic Front, we also had to make sure that we present, defenses to those people that were going to court, etc., etc. But of course, because we know what is going on in the political setup of the country, we haven't been very successful in defending our colleagues. This has been partly the reason why, we seem to be slackening in trying to resolve the problem. The other thing you must add to it also is that we moved very fast from the time that we set up Tonse Alliance. Okay, but unfortunately, the schema of the Tonse Alliance, unfortunately, was taken ill and went to South Africa, where he remained for a long time. And this is where you are hearing stories of, what did he do, who did he speak to, and where did he. All of us know who he spoke to. All of us know what he did. You see, I can tell you the truth. I am one of the people who were closest to the president, both before he became president, at the time that he was president, and after he left power. I know what he spoke to me about. But maybe because for me, I've got the privilege of being a lawyer. If he tells me, Honorable, we're speaking this in confidence, it shall remain at the table of confidence. I'm not bringing it to the public. But there's so much that I shared with President Edgar Lungu, both in terms of how he came back into active politics, how we tried to defend his right to participate in the 2026 election. You used to see me giving all those statements at that time until the scheme worked against us. And then he decided to design Plan B. We used to sit with him, at his home, sometimes with Zumani, sometimes with Mr. Chomba, and every other people that were sitting at his home. And I knew the mind of the president. When I'm participating in the meetings that were discussing the future of Tonse, I divulge what I think is necessary to divulge, and I keep what we spoke about in confidence at the table of confidence. But we're not all the same. There are others who think maybe making it public becomes a better option. But also there are others who think, why are we hiding this information? We are failing to move an inch forward because this information has been made public. So for them, they think by making it public, that others will jump onto it. And sometimes this results into the kind of confusion that we're seeing right now. But I must just reassure Bachisha, I must just reassure Bashi Nzewa, and even my young man Oswald himself, that really, we are doing everything. In the last 5 days, Zach, we have not slept, some of us. We get home at 02. We wake up at 06 to go and engage with people, to find a solution to the matter. I just thought I should correct one impression so that we don't seem to be moving the other way and the other way. Andrew suggested that this meeting that was called, the second meeting of Tonse that was called, and they had it with members of parliament, was also attended by Brian Munduvile. Andrew, just let me correct this impression, just in case people have not followed the events. Brian Munduvile did not attend the second meeting that was called by Tonse. Brian Munduvile attended the first meeting that was called by Tonse, together with other members of Central Committee, and the mission that they had gone to attend that meeting was explained in full by Brian to the members of Central Committee. This meeting that was called on the second meeting of Tonse, after the publication of that list, when it was taking place, engaging other stakeholders about the future future of Tonse. So it is not correct, Andrew, that Brian attended the second meeting. He just correct that impression. Okay, and that also now leads me to what Tuta has said. Tuta wants to find out if it is true that ECO left a list of leaders in Tonse. Okay, I just want to be cautious as I release this information, even on radio, because like I said, some of the engagements, personally with President Edgar Lungu in the presence of Vachomba, were in confidence, and I would not be doing my departed president and a friend a favor if I'm going to become belligerent and issue out information that I had promised myself I wasn't going to issue out. I just want Tuta to be reassured that after that list was published, the concern that arose, and I'm not saying whether it was done by President Lungu or not, but the concern that arose from the stakeholders has necessitated the kind of engagements we've been having in the last 48 hours, under the leadership of, the people that we've asked to come and help us. I am very convinced will result in an announcement and the Patriotic Front in my individual capacity. After these engagements that are taking place now, we will be asked to date the press and explain to them clearly where the alliance stands with that list and what the future of the alliance will be vis-a-vis what is contained in that list. It is important that we let the public know where they are going, because they can only lead us if we tell them the truth. With what has gone on, I've made one very critical resolve in this country called Zambia. For a politician to lie to people and continue in office. I'll repeat that. The politics that have taken place in the last 5 years have made Zambians reach a resolution that now in Zambia, it is no longer possible for a political leader to lie to the Zambian people and still remain in office. The lessons we have learned are so disastrous that Zambians are resolved that now they will be receiving politicians who tell the truth. And I make an appeal on that basis to the leadership of the Tonse Alliance, to the leadership of the Patriotic Front, and any other leader who would like to enlist on the opposition front. We need to change the dimension. We need to be able to begin to stand on the highest pedestal and tell the people the truth about what our leadership entails. We will not buy people using lies. At least for myself, I've resolved, even the time that I went into politics, that if I'm going to be asked to lie, I'm not going to do it. I would like to keep my nobility and my dignity, even when we have problems, in providing leadership. But I'm very, very confident, Machisha and Andrew, Nabatuta, and even Oswald, I'm very confident that our meeting to Tampilo Kukwata Nomba. I am a meeting and in Karanayo the last 2 days, 3 days. I'm not too sure when we're going to come to the public. But once we finish this engagement, I am very, very confident and hopeful that the announcement we're going to make is going to inspire new confidence, not only in the members of the Patriotic Front and Tonse, but in several other stakeholders who are looking to the future of the nation in a better position than where we are right now under the UPND government.
How do you intend to navigate as a Tonse Alliance, especially if you are going to, because eventually you have to pick a political party on which you have to use as a vehicle to get into, and the process I know is that when the Tonse Alliance decide to choose a candidate and they choose a party to use, it means that that party has to go for a convention, right?
Yes.
And the leader at some point must be part of the office bearers of that political party.
Yes.
And the situation being, as you are putting it, that under the UPND, it's very difficult to even just register a party. What makes you think that then this will happen?
Okay, that gives an opportunity to even answer the question that was asked, which I seem to have forgotten about the future of Tonse without NCP. Okay, look, the announcement of NCP was made by my good friend and young brother, Pastor Peter Chanda. And I think he elaborated the reasons why he had taken that position. I must let the public know that after that announcement, which we had not been made aware of as leaders of Patriotic Front, we have tasked the leadership of Patriotic Front to engage with Mr. Peter Chanda because he is an integral member, or the party is an integral part of the Tonse Alliance. I am very confident again that these engagements are going to result in positive results and is going to stay on board. I saw some posting later in the afternoon that he had given the Tonse and PF time to think before we can engage in crafting the future of the political party. But what you must understand, Zach, is this. Tonse Alliance is a political party. Tonse Alliance is an alliance, as you want to put it. It's made of components of different political parties. The choice of a vehicle that is going to be used is a matter that is going to be part of serious consideration, serious engagement, and dialogue.
Right.
But I'm very convinced that with the formula we're going to put in place of this is part of Plan B. With the formula we're going to put in place, we're going to choose a party that is going to get the respect of everybody within the Tonse fraternity. Okay, but what we are now trying to do is to make sure that each party that forms part of Tonse avails itself to some sort of democratic process internally in those political parties to create leadership, so that if Mr. Chisanga is going to come to Tonse and you want to vie for president, he will come as a person who had already been picked by the Patriotic Front at the Patriotic Front Convention. That is a kind of ideal scenario that we want to put in place. But you must not shy away from the fact that, like you said yourself, we are living under the most dictatorial environment under the
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Well,
I'm saying,
let me tell you,
you have
it's coming from
described,
me.
yes, you have described this as a dictatorial,
it's coming from me,
and that it can't let you maneuver around, even just
you heard what
registering
said?
a political party, for example. So how will it be in this case easy for you? Let's say,
yes,
Honorable Chisanga, you are picked by the Tonse Alliance.
I would have to be picked by a political party by now before I go to Tonse Alliance.
Of course, when you all come as leaders from different political parties, you come into the alliance. A president that will represent.
Yes, but you also remember that. But you also remember that for creation of Tonse Alliance, the PF has been considered as a party, and therefore it will have a greater say in choosing who's going to be the president. You're aware of that.
Why would it be like that? Then there's no democracy among alliance leaders.
Democracy, because you see, even at the UN, some votes are weighted. The idea is basically to weight the votes in favor of a party which comes as a bigger player in the alliance.
Right.
But that is not to say that Chisanga is going to be the president. I'm just saying it's going to be they will be accorded the bigger say in deciding which candidate we're going to pick as a presidential candidate. It's actually in the grounding rules.
And what about choosing the people's vehicle?
It's in the grounding rules. Even that, I think, will be determined by the weight of the votes. But let me tell you one thing. For me, I would like you to be alive to the fact that the environment under which we are living, doing normal things may not even work for you. We've tried to do normal things in the past, and has never worked for us. We've been in court because we're trying to be normal. We've been in court.
So you're likely to go into court. How would that pan out? Because you don't have the time.
Let me speak confidently, because I sit in the center of leadership of the Tonse Alliance and the center of Patriotic Front Alliance. Believe it or not, unless somebody will just choose to be personally selfish, the approach we're using in trying to craft a future for ourselves is such that we are getting consensus on everything that we are doing. Which is why you notice when our friends went ahead and started calling the meeting, we quickly got to them and said, please come back, let's get into these engagements, which is why they're sitting at a place right now and they're engaging. But the design we have is such that we want to ensure that when we finally settle on an individual or even a special purposes vehicle, we will all have agreed that this is a route to go. I would have wanted an ideal scenario myself. Let me tell you what an ideal scenario that I would have wanted is. I would have wanted Tonse to be transformed into a political party, because then it settles all these issues of which vehicle are we going to use, etc., etc. And I told my colleagues in Tonse that I was in Kenya myself, when in 2002, when they formed a similar alliance, and the government of the day resisted capacity or the possibility of that alliance called the National Rainbow Coalition, NAC, to be transformed into a political party, even when the leaders wanted to have that. But what they did is, in responding to that government aggression, they went into a retreat at Nyanyuki, a place called Nyanyuki, where they were in hiding for 3 weeks. By the time they came out from Nyanyuki, they had a whole laid down structure, which took into account the the size of the political parties that were there and distributed equitably the positions they're going to be vying for as they were going to the 2002 election. Just the publication of that list, Zach, was sufficient to defeat the KANU government, because that was the highest mark of demonstration of leadership by those who were in the opposition front called NAC. So even the failure or even the refusal by the Moi government to allow NAC to transform into a political party did not stop the movement. Why? Because like I said, politics, you can have a crow, but where the cows are is where it all matters. So the people that were in the NAC formations, even if they knew that they belonged to a democratic party, they belonged to Ford Kenya, they all agreed that, look, the way our leaders are going to structure the leadership is what we're going to follow. It was so nicely knitted out in such a way, Zach, that even when first Mwai Kibaki had an accident when they were having campaigns, which required for him to be taken to the UK for treatment, you know, the KANU government started publishing stories that, oh, he had died. Believe it or not, they started bringing, that time there was no social media, which is as good as what we have now, so it can't happen. But they started making sure that somebody flew to the UK, had the man give an interview, fly back in Kenya, and the following day, put it on TV to show that this guy is alive, he's still working, and the plaster of Paris was showing on the right leg. When he was being sworn in as a president, he had just come from the UK government. So he won the election 3 days before, after coming from the UK. This process, this kind of respect, mutual respect for each other continued to the extent that when Michael Wamalwa, who was the vice president at that time, died, the structure they had used at Nyanyuki when they were in opposition to allocate the position of vice president was the same structure they used, so that the person who became the vice president after Wamalwa died, a guy called Mudi Aori, became the vice president of the country. There wasn't Changanya that or Inyigirepo Sangwapo that now because this political party, their president has died, we get somebody else to become vice. No, they what they had agreed. For me, that showed the highest level of maturity by those politicians, which I am appealing we can use in Tonse to create a leadership that is going to be respected by the Zambian people, to the extent that getting into this government, getting back into government by these people will be like a walk of the children of Israel on dry land. Yeah. We need to be able to do the scheme.
Mr. Honorable Tsanga, you need to clarify something. Let's assume party A, B, C, and D are Tonse Alliance parties.
Yes.
And individually, they decide to go to conventions.
Yes.
Individually.
Yes.
And they come back. They choose leadership, of course, of individual party.
Yes.
And they come back to the alliance. And party D has been picked that this is the purpose vehicle we shall use into the 2026
Had
election.
it gone to the convention?
Yes, equally.
Okay.
Equally it has.
Yes.
So you pick party B.
Yes.
Whilst A, B, C, and D itself together, you decide to pick Honorable Chisanga as the presidential candidate into 2026.
Yes.
Honorable Chisanga needs to find himself somewhere in party D, which is the purpose vehicle, for him to be a sponsored candidate.
Yes.
How does that happen? Because you would have already come back from conventions.
Yes.
What happens with the leadership of party D? In this case, they already have a list of office bearers sitting probably at the registrar of society.
Yes.
How does Honorable Chisanga come into party D to be official presidential candidate sponsored by party D, but obviously under the alliance?
The simple answer to that is, Zach, that a presidential candidate need not be an office bearer at registrar of societies. It doesn't need to. In fact, if I remember very well, when Frederick Chiluba was becoming the president of Zambia, he wasn't on the list of office bearers at registrar of societies under MMD. And the law has not changed. But the fact you don't have to be an office bearer at the register for you to be a presidential candidate. My memory, if it serves me well, we must have followed the same criteria when pushing the PF agenda with Omai Kosata as president. The list that was first presented did not include Omai Kosata, but it is the law that you don't have to be a member, a person whose name is at the registrar of society. Office bearers are like trustees.
Right.
They have absolutely nothing to do with the politics that they're doing in a political party.
Right.
That is the position.
Your reaction to the fact that we have new individuals joining politics, a very learned counsel who I believe you are friends in John Sangwa.
Yes.
But not only that, also Lukashya Banda,
Yes.
another presidential candidate for 2026, who have come on board and saying, look, we are coming because we need to do things right. How has the rest of the opposition, because I mean, you are all in opposition, and if you are calling for a united opposition, you are probably extending that call to even these new entrants, but they're coming on board into the political arena. How does that sit with you as an individual, first of all, and probably as a party?
Well, I've known John Sangwa for a long time. We were together in school. He was, I think, 2 years ahead of me. In practice, we've been very close with him. But what I like about my relationship with John is we exercise friendship at the highest level of intellectualism. We speak mostly about the rule of law, about jurisprudence, about cases and with the degeneration in the judicature, and we all have a passion to work hard to ensure that we return the judiciary and the legal fraternity to their years of glory. That's as far as my friendship with John Sangwa goes. I admire his passion as an individual who thinks if he is the one who has to solve the problem, he will leave no stone unturned and he will go for the jugular to solve the problem. If you remember him very well, he was a fierce critic of the MMD government when Chilua was in power, because that's the time I think he started seeing the degeneration of the rule of law system, etc., etc. But when Chiluba, out of power, became a victim of Mwanawasa, John Sangwa felt this is not correct. I am going for it. Okay, and he defended Chiluba with passion and for a long time. And I think for money that you can't think, I don't think he was actually even paid what was worth. He was paid far less than what he was worth. But he felt, together with his colleague Robert Simeza, the passion to just defend somebody whose constitutional rights were being violated. John Sangwa, I think, used the same attitude when he felt that Edgar Chagolungu was armstronging himself when dealing with HH in opposition. To the extent that he even helped HH in a very big way, and lo and behold, HH is in government. And unfortunately, when HH comes into government, John begins to think what we looked for and what we've ended up with are two different things. And if you've seen from the beginning, he's been a critic again of HH. That is the kind of integrity that I think that John Sangwa practices his law with. I have only heard about his quest for presidency through some Facebook posts that I've seen.
Well, he said
that he's ready. Yes, that he's ready.
Said it himself.
I'm saying I haven't had an interaction with him.
Right.
I am hoping that very soon, rather than later, I'm going to have an interaction with him. It would be a welcome idea because, for me, I think that, like I said earlier, we need to move away from a position where people can lie themselves into presidency, into MPship, into councillorship, into mayorship, and people do nothing about it. Now, people can't do anything about it unless they see alternatives. So John, I think, just like Brian Mundubile, just like Given Lubinda, just like George Chisanga and everybody else, we present alternatives that people can now come and look at. We think that this, then they begin to classify you, okay? It appears to me he's looking for a possibility of standing as an independent candidate. I'm yet to have a dialogue with him. The only thing I can say is that my respect for John Sangwa always grows. That even when he says he's going to become president, I can entertain that thought. But you see, I'm in a political grouping that is also
of course
pushing
I hear
an agenda for somebody.
And Lukashya Banda.
So I'm going to have a discussion with him. Lukashya Banda, I came to know about Ms. Lukashya Banda when she was chairperson for ZCCMIH, and you won't believe it.
For the shortest time.
I mean it. Lukashya Banda, I knew about her when she resigned. Well, I heard about the appointment, but I didn't know about the activities. But I knew about her when she resigned. She made a startling statement that represents stateswomanship when she gave a speech on her resignation. I will paraphrase what she said, because I actually even wrote it on my Facebook posting in supporting what she said. She said that, our country is endowed with value minerals. Okay, I'm paraphrasing. And that this is a multi-billion-dollar business. And that while we would want to ensure that people, exploit minerals and use them for whatever profit, motives they have in exploiting and exploring these minerals, Zambians must be on the table. I found that statement to be very patriotic, that when I debated the budget in Parliament in that year, I used that quotation to start my debate, because I thought I needed to had appointed to be chairperson for ZCCM has resigned and is now accusing you of failing to put Zambians on the table when take value out of our minerals. I think if UPND was listening in government, I want to be honest, they should have gone back to engage Dorica, and they should have we have another discussion, maybe not of bringing you back into ZCC. Give us an idea of how we can put Zambia. And I then went and debated, the mineral head, the Minister of Mines head on the budget that year, that we need to invoke the principle of shared value, which is being employed in countries like Botswana, Tanzania, Mexico, Venezuela, and elsewhere, that the citizens of the nation must have a feeling that they own the minerals beyond just getting employed by mining companies and getting, minute salaries. Because in this country, if you've seen, Zach, we've had a history where if an Indian is employed in ZCCM, who is not even as qualified as you, if you're an accountant, that Indian is going to be getting 20 times more than you are getting, and they allow you to continue working. And we think that by giving, all those men who live on the copper belt and women a salary, then we're getting value out of the mines. I argue differently, because the principle of shared value means that the share that we must get out of the mine must be beyond salary, because the salary is a decent wage for the work that you put in the mine. But what about the fact that you are so privileged and blessed to be in a country that owns the mines? What are you going to get out of it? And that, I think, is what has been the mindset of Zachariah Banda. I felt quite concerned how she etched herself into politics. Everybody can come into politics. But I think there was that arrangement where she was going to come via a political party. And I think without doing her own due diligence, it appeared somebody used, tricks to try and get her exposed so that she can become embarrassed. But you see, you can't put a good woman down, so she still remains as one of those who would like to offer herself on leadership. Now, let me say what I think I have said so many times, and I might sound slightly contradictory. At one time, when I was making a statement at Parliament during our Friday pressers, I said, I'm now getting concerned with the number of people that would like to become presidents. What kind of country do we want to all become presidents for? This country is degenerating. This country is on the verge of collapse. How can we have such a huge number of people standing up and saying, I'm going to be president, I'm going to be president? I then reminded the Zambians that we need to get to a place where we were in 1990, when even people who had competencies, who had experiences, and who were willing to serve in the office of a president, decided that no, the better thing to do is to bring about a group of leaders, what George Bush called, he called it something like a convergence of the willing. People that are willing to see real and genuine change that will benefit the Zambian people. Bring those people together, put them in one room, let them craft for the nation. What would we want to do if we became leaders, not president, leaders? I would like us to get into a place where if I'm a president, Zach, I'm going to treat you at arm's length as a Minister of Information, because I think you bring value to the table. I want to be able to tell you, Zach, I think we have these problems in the ministry. Can you tell me how we get out of these problems? I don't want to be in a presidency where I look like a priest or a bishop and you are my priests. Or if I'm a priest, you are my servers. I don't want to get that kind of leadership. This is what has been killing this country, that we create a monster in the president and we allow everybody else to be praise singers to the president. I don't even fault Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. I think that if he had very strong women and men around him, you would have fared even much better, because you would have had, discussions that are genuine conversations to ensure that we put this country forward. But we have this culture of thinking that we all thrust ourselves into president. And when you get out there, you become, it's me and you are the rest. And it becomes a problem. So I had made an appeal, and I would repeat it here, that what Zambia now needs is a collision of the willing. That's a phrase that George Bush used. It's a collision of the willing. All of us know that the country's got problems. We know. There's nobody who doesn't know. We know that this country, economically is not doing very well. In terms of international relationships, it's not doing very well. In terms of ethnic relationships, it's not doing well. In terms of the relationship between the younger population and the older population, everywhere that you want to look at Zambia in a prism, we are not doing well. The answer to this problem lies in a collision of the willing sitting somewhere and agreeing for themselves. Mining, what are we going to do? Agriculture, what are we going to do? The youth empowerment, what are we going to do? Women empowerment, what are we going to do? All of which UPND has not done to the satisfaction of the Zambian people. Ethnic relationships, what are we going to do? You understand? Once you get to a level where you can sit somewhere and craft out some sort of manifesto, and you even agree that you sign it because now it's going to be a contract, social contract with the Zambian people, then you will have brought about leadership that people can respect. And in that very process, then you identify amongst yourselves who is the most properly positioned person to bid as president as we go forward. All of you come together. Believe it or not, if we're going to go the way it looks like, the way there's going to be maybe 8 opposition political presidents against the incumbent, we create for ourselves, a dangerous trajectory where possibly we will not wrestle power from this government. And in politics, 5 years is everything. The next 5 years will just kick everybody out of, into oblivion in terms of politics. Maybe each then will show up on the scene, and there's no telling where each is going, because each you see, it's an exciting gathering of young men who have identified the lapses in leadership, and they think they want to take that space. How they want to take that space up to now is not known to the Zambian. I would love, at my experience now, because I was also HRH before. In 1991, I was HRH at University of Zambia. In 2001, I was HRH in the profession. I had the zeal and the excitement to want to get in and take it away from them. But later I've discovered that it's a synergies between the old, the young, the women, the disabled, the abled. You have to have almost everybody in the crucible and then direct it. HRH is coming to the fore because those of our colleagues who are more experienced in politics have decided to make politics their lifeline. They think that it's only them who must do it and everybody else must follow. That's not how you provide leadership. Miles Monroe, who I follow very, very much, says once you become a leader, immediately you must begin to create other leaders. The most effective leader is the one who creates leaders immediately begins to become a leader. You must mentor people immediately you get into a leadership position. What we see in a political space is that there seems to be no system of mentorship. That's why you see a generation comes in, goes off. A generation comes in, goes off without passing it over to the next generation. We need to get to that stage where all these things can come to converge in the same place. Then we can provide leadership that is, response to the aspiration of the Zambian people.
We should be concluding our conversation.
Should we?
How alive are you to the fact that, other than the Central Committee or indeed Council of Leaders in Tonse Alliance, how are you alive to the fact that the general public, if anything, the general following of the Patriotic Front, for example, because obviously it's a bigger party.
Yes.
The general membership out there,
yes,
they have a preferred candidate. Are you alive to that fact? I think Andrew was one of those that said, I have, and he's probably speaking for many.
I know that.
There are a lot of Patriotic Front members out there who have a preferred candidate.
Yes.
And once the Central Committee or indeed the Tonse Alliance chooses someone who is not a preferred candidate by the general membership, you will have problems. But how alive and how accommodating are you going to be the fact that the membership has a preferred candidate?
To start with, I need to make a statement I made earlier that in terms of where we're sitting with structures, we are very intact. Okay? That's one position. The next position you must know is that above everything else, the Patriotic Front enjoys the patronage of very disciplined members on the structures. That I can tell you.
Yeah.
Because if they were not disciplined with the kind of suffering they've gone through, I sit with women who are my constituency chair ladies, constituency chair, youth chair lady, and others. The kind of untold suffering they are going through right now, and everywhere else in the structures of the leadership, they would have left and gone a long time ago. But they've stayed intact. That's one thing. The second thing is that of respecting the decision of the General Conference. If you saw what happened at the succession from Michael Sata to Edgar Lungu, there were other. I think Mrs. Kasaba also was one of them. If I'm not mistaken, even Guy Scott was one of them. Vision, and I was the president of FLAS at that time. But what you saw is that they had resolved that we will go with this particular person. And once Mr. Edgar Lungu was put in the chair as the leader of the party, even those who had supported Given Luminda came. Even those who supported Mr. Ubas Musa came. So they allowed that progression to be smoothly run. And I have the expectation that that is what is most likely going to happen even
Well,
this time
there
around.
was a sympathy vote, you would want to say, at the time. And I think that it was automatic that, this is the man that the late President Sata has left in the position, both at party and,
Which is why you can't call it a sympathy vote.
Well,
you call it,
then you
a
say
vote guided,
the wish of Sata was that Edgar Lungu.
Yes.
But this is going to be different.
How different is it going to be?
Because, you don't have Edgar Lungu leaving an endorsement, for example, as things stand. But it will be an issue of we must find someone.
Are you ignoring the fact that the party has matured?
It could have, but
yes, this party has matured. This party
but
has.
It would be different if it would have been different.
I don't want to think
if the late Edgar Lungu had left an endorsement, for example, it would have been different.
I don't want to engage in the naivety of thinking that this is going to be a different ballgame. I accept that, but I want to be optimistic and positive to tell you that the maturity I think that we have experienced, and also the experiences we've had at the hands of the UPND government, has wielded all of us together to the extent that even if we have preferred candidates, when we run the next election, with integrity, objectively, and allow people to exercise their free will, whoever is going to come out of that election will have the respect.
When is the Patriotic Front going for a convention? Do you know?
The Secretary General announced that before the end of November, we will do that. I don't know the specific date. The committees right now, as I'm speaking to you, are sitting planning it. We'll call a central committee to announce when the convention is going to be, because it takes into account, resources, structure audit, and etc. So all these things have to be put in place before an announcement can be made. But we mandated the president to call the convention before the end of November.
Are you putting yourself
Which is why coincidentally, you saw that even our colleagues in Tonse also fixed their convention in November.
Yeah.
So,
are you putting yourself up? Are you that ambitious? You sound like you are ambitious.
I'm a very ambitious person, but I will not disclose my intentions right now. It's part of strategy. I'm very ambitious, but I've said it on this radio that from the time.
Oh, you're endorsing someone secretly as well.
It's a possibility, but from the time that I have engaged in Patriotic Front politics, I have ensured that I have participated at the highest level possible in the leadership of this political party. I have done so. In 2011, I was me and Robert Smeza were the people that Michael Sata put in the electoral commission that was going to run the elections for Michael Sata at Mulungushi. But with what transpired, the elections were dispensed with, because the party had already agreed to endorse Michael Sata, and they gave him a carte blanche to appoint onto the central committee his own people.
Right.
So and then 2015, like I said, I was away, but later Edgar Lungu 2017 asked me to join the presidential delivery team. I was working with him, and I was pushed back into central committee in 2021. I have been so favored and fortunate, and I think blessed by God, that this political party has had to utilize the services that I'm able to provide at the political platform. And I think that we have a future with this party.
Your concluding remarks as we close.
I think for me, it is just to reassure the Patriotic Front that, and by extension, the Tonse Alliance, we are very passionate about the Tonse Alliance. I was one of those who grounded, the rules of engagement of the Tonse Alliance. I know what those rules entail. Sometimes there are always departures from the rules, and we get into problems when we depart from this. That's why it's very important to follow rules. And by extension, this is why you would advise even the UPND. See, when you have got a constitution, you must follow follow it to the letter and spirit. If you don't follow the rules, the letter and spirit, or if you don't follow the constitution, the letter and spirit, what you create is a recipe for unbridled chaos. But I am so confident that we have engaged very renowned leaders in the country, and we have been approached by a very senior, clergy in the country who have made themselves available to try and help us resolve this problem. I just want to renew the confidence in the membership of the Patriotic Front and Tonse Alliance that your leaders are not sleeping. We would like to find a solution to this problem. This particular problem, I must admit, is inbuilt. It started within the party itself. And the best way about, the good way rather about inbuilt problems is that you can find quick inbuilt solutions to them, because it's like a family differing. So you can sit at some place and resolve this problem. I'm very, very hopeful that as we get into next week, you will be hearing good news and redeeming voices from within the leadership of the Patriotic Front rather, and the Tonse Alliance. We would like to drive the process further. We would like to have a convention before the end of November. We would like to start engagements with our colleagues in the other political formations so that we can come up with a formidable opposition, because that's the only solution that Zambia has to change the tides on what we're going. The UPND is a failed project, like everybody has said. It is time for us to put them on bench and replace them with people that understand the government, people that understand regional and international relationships, people that understand the value, of the mines and everything else that is required in the country to move this country forward. We have done some substantial work as a Patriotic Front. Of course, we were not perfect. And in our imperfections, we were kicked out of government, but we are aspiring to get back there. And we have teams that are able to get us back to government. And thank you very much, Zach, for giving me this opportunity again.
Honorable George Chisanga, thank you very much for coming, and we really appreciate it.
I'm so grateful. Thank you very much.
There you have it. That was our guest, Honorable George Chisanga, Member of Parliament for Lukashya Constituency and Chairman of the Legal Committee in the Patriotic Front. And I would like to thank you, our listener, for having followed our conversation, and those that managed to come through for participation. We appreciate that. And more so, our partner radio stations for having carried this program live on your various radio stations. We'll set next week with both our Tuesday and Thursday editions of The Benny. From us all here is take care of yourselves and more so of each other. Bye-bye.
Tune in next week